space, not the planes in the sky, not the ships at sea, nor the vehicles on the ground.
Ecto Radio.
The ghost hunting badasses.
It's time to kick ass and chew bubble gum, and I'm all out of gum.
Only on the Supernatural Radio Network.
Beer-fueled, whiskey-filtered, paranormal radio.
All right, welcome to Ecto Radio. I'm the Hitman.
I am Racer.
I am Wicked Wendy.
And I am Zero Voorhees.
Take two. Take one did not work very well.
No.
Sometimes you have audio difficulties. We will blame it on the zero.
What?
Yeah.
You're the gremlin.
Welcome back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how we always do it. Well, we're used to you not being here. Like, that's Zero's fault. Rain, Rex, chaos, government shuts down, Zero's fault.
Chaos reigns.
Yep.
So, yeah, there you go. Anyway, so tonight we're going to continue talking about the urban legends. We got one from Japan. Oddly, I didn't run into this one when I was in Japan.
Oh, really?
So I never did. I never heard about it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's one of the teenager kind of a thing, but I never did hear about it, so I thought we'd do that. And then we're talking about some of the urban legends around White Rock Lake, which I've actually been to. We actually investigated that, so we'll be talking about that as well. But here first, we're going to go over the Slit-Mouthed woman. So, you ready? Here we go. We're going to do this.
Okay.
The Slit-Mouthed woman walks the streets of Japan, wearing a surgical mask and hunting for children. If you cross her path, she will stop you and ask you a question. If you give her the wrong answer, there will be horrible consequences. Picture the scene. You are walking home from school, and your path takes you down a deserted street. Suddenly, you hear a faint noise coming from the shadows. You glance over and see a beautiful woman standing there. She has long black hair and is wearing a baggy trench coat. A surgical mask covers the lower half of her face. In Japan, wearing a surgical mask is not uncommon during the flu season. It prevents spreading germs. She steps out of the shadows and blocks your path. "Am I beautiful?" she asks you. Before you can answer, she tears off her mask, revealing a hideous, deformed face. Her huge mouth is sliced from ear to ear, and gapes open, revealing rows of sharp teeth, and a big, red, disgusting tongue twisting and writhing inside. "Am I beautiful now?" she screams. Terrified, you struggle to answer her. If you say no, she pulls out a huge pair of scissors and kills you immediately, chopping off your head. If you say yes, she takes her scissors and slices your mouth from ear to ear, making you like her. If you try to run away, she will hunt you down and kill you by slicing you in two. The only way to escape from the Slit-Mouthed woman is to give a non-committal answer. If you say, "You look average," or "You look normal," she will be confused and give you enough time to escape. There are many rumors about how the Slit-Mouthed woman got her horrible deformed mouth. Some say that her slit mouth is a result of plastic surgery that went horribly wrong. Others say that she was injured in a terrible car crash. Some even believe she is an escaped mental patient who was so demented that she cut her own mouth apart. According to one legend, years ago, in Japan, there lived a very beautiful woman who was extremely vain and self-absorbed. Her husband was a very jealous and brutal man, and he became convinced that she was cheating on him. In a fit of rage, he took out a sword and slit her mouth from ear to ear, screaming, Who will think you are beautiful now? She became a vengeful spirit and began wandering the streets of Japan wearing a surgical mask to hide her terrible scars. The Slit-Mouthed woman's reign of terror began in the spring and summer of 1979, when rumors began to spread throughout Japan about sightings of the Slit-Mouthed woman hunting down children. The story spread like wildfire and actually caused panics in some towns. Police increased their patrols, and schools sent teachers to walk students home in groups. In 2004, South Korea was plagued by reports of a red-masked woman who was chasing children. In 2007, a coroner found some old records from the late 1970s about a woman who was chasing little children but was hit by a car and died shortly after. Her mouth was ripped from ear to ear. The U.S. has its own version of the Slit-Mouthed woman. There were rumors about a clown who appeared in public bathrooms and accosted children asking, "Do you want death or a happy smile?" If they chose happy smile, he took out a knife and slit their mouths from ear to ear. We will never know why it is always bathrooms in America. They seem to think it's extremely funny, or perhaps Americans are just terrified of bathrooms. I can certainly see why. Some of the public bathrooms I've been in are definitely terrifying. Going into them is not an experience I would like to repeat. However, one thing will always be certain. Japan's local legends are definitely better than ours.
Well, there you go.
In the bathrooms.
We're scared of
That's
bathrooms.
terrifying.
I know, that was like the
We're really scared of bathrooms.
most
in America.
over-dramatic storytelling ever.
Well, you know.
Somebody get that kid a Pepsi or a Red Bull or something. Good Lord.
And then.
And then the ghost comes up. Who's gonna think you're pretty now? That's not how it goes.
That'd make a good Halloween costume, wouldn't it?
No, yeah, I'm not taking anything away from that. That's true.
I'd never heard the clown story.
This movie is actually that they made a movie about Kuchisaki Anna, and it's on Netflix. You can watch it about the Slit-Mouthed woman.
Kind of reminds me of The Grudge, though. Wasn't
I won't
there
watch
like
it.
A slit-mouthed
A
woman?
slut-mouthed woman.
Slut-mouthed woman.
That's a different kind of movie right there.
Yeah,
Oh, wrong.
Cyril's all about that.
one.
that's not an urban legend.
That is not, no. That was
He's already Googling
2 hours
it.
ago.
Look at him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know, we've mentioned this before. There actually are quite a few ghost stories, you know, in bathrooms.
There really are.
In their bath,
Oh, yeah. What's that other one?
Well, you think about
Bloody
it.
Mary?
You're vulnerable, you know, when you're
Yeah.
in there for a few minutes. And
There's Bloody Mary. There's Baba Yaga. There's
Biggie Smalls.
Candyman.
there's all kinds of
It's a mirror, though.
just
I mean,
weird stuff. But,
Yeah, it's all mirrors.
all smoke and mirrors.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
but there you go. But I like I said, I never came across it, so I don't know. Maybe it was just where I was. I was in northern Japan. Maybe it didn't get up there yet.
What year were you there?
What year was I there? Let's see. 87, 88, 89.
Okay,
I got there in 89 to 91.
because the information that I have, it was Japan 1979 in the Nagasaki Prefecture. Where's that? Do you know?
Nagasaki?
Mm-hmm.
That's not where I was.
Well, that might be why. See, she doesn't travel. She stays in
She
a little
stays
area.
around, yeah.
she's regional.
Yeah.
Doesn't hang out up there.
She's on foot, so she
Too
doesn't
cold.
like to go too far.
But they're right. They do wear the surgical masks a lot, especially in winter, you know, as courtesy. You know, if
Yeah.
you have a cold, you wear the mask. That's your duty to society, not to spread your illness, you know, to other people. So
Which is eerie. Like,
Yeah, I work in a hospital, and I'll go downstairs where all the everybody's waiting, and there's all these people in masks, and I think, are they zombies?
Yeah.
I mean, it's scary. It's like, should I have a mask on?
everybody else has one. That's a good
Everybody
idea.
else has one on. Maybe I should wear one.
Might get something. Never know.
Freaky.
But the other thing that we were going to talk about, in Dallas, there's a whole bunch of local urban legends, and I think there's one, not as, you know, one of the famous ones is White Rock Lake, and there's tons and tons of different stories out of there, but the main one is that of a hitchhiking ghost. And so, well, you got the backstory.
I got
basically.
the backstory. I got you. So stories surrounding haunted lakes are abundant, especially in Texas. But Lady of White Rock Lake in Dallas is based in historical fact and extremely intriguing. It is the story of a young woman who drowned tragically in White Rock Lake. The lake sits about 5 miles northeast of downtown Dallas and was once a spot where wealthy citizens spent hot summer nights sashaying upon luxurious excursion boats. This was during the 1920s when Prohibition was at its peak. The parties on these boats were a perfect place to be cooled off by the lake's breezes and to enjoy the finest spirits Dallas had to offer. During one party in particular, a spirit of a different kind would be created. A young Dallas couple, it is unknown if they were married, got into a fight while on the boat. When it docked, the woman entered their fancy automobile and drove off. She perhaps had too much to drink that night and could not keep control of the car on the lake's narrow, winding roads. Near the intersection of East Louther Drive and Garland Road, the car plunged into the lake. She was far enough away from the dock that no one at the party heard or saw anything. She died in the accident. Residents of Dallas have heard the story numerous times and have told many different versions. Over the years, dozens of drivers have reported picking up a woman hitchhiking. She looks very distraught, and her white evening dress is soaked wet. When in the back seat, she gives an address on Gaston Avenue. Gaston Avenue is on the way from White Rock Lake to the center of Dallas and was a very prestigious area of town during the 1920s. Before the friendly motorist reaches the destination, the woman disappears. All that's left is a wet back seat and sometimes a wrap that bears a 1920 Neiman Marcus label. There have been other accounts from people living on houses in the lake. They state that she comes to the front door and asks to use the telephone. Quickly she is gone and there is only a puddle left just outside the door. She has also been seen on the lake, always floating across the water and usually screaming for help. Picking up hitchhikers is not as accepted today as it used to be. In most places it is even illegal. But if you happen to be driving around White Rock Lake and see a woman in a white dress loving for a ride, pick her up. You just might be helping out Dallas's most famous stranded citizen. Laying a clean towel on the back seat would be a good idea.
Because the bitch gets your back seat wet.
And not in the good way.
Now the one thing that really screams urban legend is the fact that she leaves something behind.
Yeah.
I mean, you know how much something like that would be worth these days?
Yeah.
Going back, especially a label like that. That was like a well-known label back in the day.
Neiman Marcus is not. I mean, you can't even walk out of there without paying $200 for one little piece of something.
Yeah.
So that'd be a lot of money.
It's an expensive store.
Anyway, so this is one of we have been here. So I gave Wendy, actually, and I pulled this off SGHA.net. And so this is, we were looking at the history and trying to verify, okay, did people die? And yes, there are some people that did die, so.
So this reporter reported that the Lady of the Lake had been seen in a flowing negligee and that she was believed to be the ghost of a despondent young woman who committed suicide by drowning herself in the reservoir. The question is asked, has anyone ever died in such a way as in this particular lake? The answer lies in a story in Dallas Times-Herald. On Friday, July 5th, 1935, Mrs. Frank Doyle found a suicide note left by her sister, Louise Ford Davis, who resided at the Melrose Court Hotel. Miss Doyle immediately alerted the police, who had sent several squad cars to facing White Rock Lake in hopes of preventing a tragedy, but they were too late. Detective Bryan reported that the daily Dallas Times-Herald, who was driving along with the along Garland Road, turned onto the Lake Road, and shortly afterwards, Mrs. Davis's head was seen bobbing in the water. Basically, it goes on to say that she, if they'd been there a few minutes earlier, they might have saved her. And then there's another one about a 34-year-old woman in 1942. She was wearing a skirt and a shirt, and they discovered her in a suicide note, the whole bit. But the thing with that is, every time somebody, says that they saw the Lady of the Lake, it depends on what story it is, because sometimes people see the negligee and some people see the skirt and the shirt. So they don't know which one it would have been because those are the only 2 reported ones.
Interesting, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was just sitting here thinking and making a list of my own opinion here. But there are a lot of these, like, lady in white, lady of the lake type stories with, even just the Slit-Mouthed woman. Granted, she's not by a lake, but she's still a wandering woman seeking revenge. La Llorona. She's a big one. Yeah. And then, the lady of the lake. So,
there's
and then the one in Chicago. The one who hitchhikes home, and what's her name?
Resurrection
Mary.
Yeah. And then there's another lady of the lake at Port Phantom Lake in Abilene, Texas. So that's a common thing.
Yeah.
It is very common.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder how many of these are like, the hook. You go to, you're in a group and you tell scary stories, and, they come up with one, and before you know it, it's legend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's what I think it is.
Good old-fashioned folklore.
And there's got to be tons more that we're missing.
Yeah.
There's got to be quite a few of these.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's got one in their backyard right now.
I think every culture probably has one.
In every area, because in Texas they have some, New Mexico they have some, and then some of them are the same in Texas and in
Well, I think
the South it's a bunch of pissed off slaves.
Well, yeah. Well, in New Mexico and Texas, though, you have a hodgepodge of like multicultural, groups of people.
Right.
So it's like one story crisscrosses onto another culture.
Yeah. It's kind of like religion, if you think about it. They're all pretty much the same, but it's just told differently.
Just different flavors.
Yeah.
Yeah. A few of the names are changed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a Friday for Dragnet from back in the day.
All right, so
the names of the deities have been changed to protect the innocent.
All right, so we're going to move on to our next little bit. Continuing Ghost Tech. Last time. It's been more than a week.
Yeah.
We were going to go over the 10 most important questions to ask. So Zero is going to actually tell you what the question is, and I'll elaborate on why it's important. So let's do number 1 there.
Number 1. What were you doing just before the event?
Okay, so the first 3 are actually well, let me put it this way. Everybody thinks of the event of the present, okay? I was going up the stairs, the ghost came out, went woogie woogie, went through the door. They're looking at just what happened during the event. The whole event is going to be what happened before, what happened during, and what happened at the end. So our first one is, what were you doing before? And a lot of this, there's important things that you can figure out. Mm-hmm. And it's important not only on trying to solve the mystery, but even if you're looking at it from a believer angle and you're trying to figure out, well, did they do something that might have provoked a response or something like that? This is why information is so important. But you've been surprised when people, what were you doing? Well, my buddy dared me to go up in the hallway in the dark because it's haunted. Well, that's automatically tells us he's expecting to see something. There's a bias already there.
Yeah.
Is he, he hears a pop of a noise. Oh my God.
It's the ghost.
Another big thing, right before the event, what was the first thing that you thought it originally was? Well, that's kind of a big question. I've had a lot of people. I'll give you 2 instances, one believer and one skeptical. The believer one, going to like the Luna Mansion over in Los Lunas, New Mexico. When I was talking to David, who was the manager at the time, he came upstairs and he thought it was one of the waitresses. He even called her by name. Shelley, what are you doing here? You should be off by now. Thought he was alone in the building. Thought it was a waitress at first. And then he saw her, went, okay, definitely isn't Shelley, and then she vanished, which freaked him out, and he hauled ass out. But that initial, okay, I thought it was this. Sometimes, though, it can point you in an opposite direction. If the guy goes, well, first I thought it was a pipe banging in the wall.
Yeah.
Okay, then we get on with questioning, and later on you find out he talked to a coworker and said, you didn't know that was the ghost, man. Dr. X haunts up there, and oh, wait, maybe I didn't hear a pipe. Maybe it was the ghost. And they changed their opinion based on that. So that's why you need to know, what were you doing the first thing? Also, did something they do cause the phenomenon to happen? And I've run into this, don't laugh. I had someone actually tell us they turned down the thermostat, they went back to their bed, and they felt a cold spot.
Who would have thunk?
It's happened. And you're like, you can't put two and two together like that. You'd be amazed.
Well, and then Hitman 2, wouldn't you think that, well, what did you do before that? Well, I had a 8-hour flight from New York and sat down in the bar and had about 7 or 8 margaritas with my buddies.
Yeah, that would be an important thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I just went out and did 2 grams of crack. That would be an important
Some
thing.
crocodile. Or acid or shrooms. That would explain a
I
lot.
was doing meth during an all-night Breaking Bad marathon.
There was some baths.
Or we were down in the bar and we were talking about ghost stories, and I went up to my room. Well, that automatically kind of puts the thoughts going on ghost and paranormal, and you know, heard a weird noise, and you jump to that.
Fear factor.
So what's number 2?
Number 2, you were kind of touching on this already.
These 3 are kind of going to go together. But
what were your perceptions during the event?
So what we're looking for here is fear. Were you afraid? What did you initially think it was? What, do you think it was a person? What was going on there? Panic. How did they react to it? A lot of times, like at the St. James, we had that one sighting where a maid thought she saw somebody there. And so she's out cleaning the room. She was certain she was the only one up there. And she said, I was the only one up there, but I saw this shadow and I heard noises in the room next door. Well, could it have been somebody? Don't know.
Yeah, I've
She hauled ass.
They didn't know I was there. I sneak up on my girlfriend all the time. She doesn't even know I'm there.
So that's where you want to get the initial perceptions. Were you scared? But you see, you don't want to ask a leading question like that. You kind of you have to put it where it's open, where they're telling you how they felt, and you're not kind of putting words into their mouth. You know what I mean? So, yeah, and that gives you clues as well. It helps you figure out where they are mentally.
That's always
which
good.
leads us to number 3.
What did you do after the event?
So your after was, I ran out of the building. Okay, well, automatically you can see where there's going to be bias. They obviously thought they experienced something paranormal. And they were afraid by it. Another big thing, who did you talk to? Like we just brought up. And I've had that happen a lot. People will have something weird happen, and then they don't think it's paranormal at first, and they talk to a coworker who, tells them the story. Oh, okay. At the St. James now, everything is the ghost's fault. Cash register rings up wrong. Damn ghost. Fucking TJ. Everything is blamed on poor TJ. Well, everything is.
I tripped on the stairs. I was pushed. Yeah.
Yeah, even the guests. The condom broke. That damn TJ ghost. Oh, son of a bitch. Came in there.
No, I was
reached up in there and
yeah. Pinch the tip.
But yeah, so you need to know the after. What they did after is really going to it's going to tell you a lot about their mindset. Were they influenced by telling other people or what have you? That's one of the bad things about trying to do anything now. Everybody's been watching the TV shows, and they've kind of been contaminated by them.
Oh, God, yeah.
You go now, and, well, actually, my son did EVP. Here, you can listen what we got.
He's 4.
He's 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
His first words, can you tell us your name?
Listen, you'll hear it. You hear it? It's a George. Yeah.
Can you see Santa Claus where you are?
Yeah. So number 4.
To Jesus. This one's actually, I like this one. If we write a report, is it okay to use your name, or would you prefer that we use an alias? And it's this motive part that you have underneath it.
Right. Now,
raises the eyebrow.
Here's the thing. When you're looking at law enforcement, and the whole thing with interviewing, like I was taught interviewing by Ted McKelsey, who was an early guy in our group. And he was actually law enforcement and military. He was a military police. And so he picked up the same techniques that they use for interviewing and the same type. What is your motive? Why are you telling me this ghost story? And what he's talking about here, if they say, oh, sure, yeah. Well, what do they have to gain by putting their name out there? I mean, if we're obviously talking to Nova at the birdcage, there's a motive. Hey, they're trying to sell tickets to a ghost tour. They're trying to bring in tourists. I found out that most people that I really believe, they'll go, no, don't mention my name. And because they're afraid of the ridicule, it's going to follow it.
Right.
And this is not a 100% gauge, but it's a neat tool to have because it kind of gives you, if they say, yeah, well, okay, why do they stand to gain by it? You know? And a lot of the true people that actually experience things, they're kind of, I really don't want my name associated with it, but, I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
And the same thing when I was writing all my books. You'll be amazed how many were aliases because
almost all
when I
of them.
talk to them, they don't want their name mentioned.
Yeah, I remember your first book. I don't think there was one person in there that used a real name.
There was one that let me use their name. And then again, I look at the motive, and they're like, well, they own a shop.
Yeah.
Come on down, check out the Ghost Way, buy some of my CDs. So, yeah. So you have to look at motive. What does the witness have to gain by telling the story? So, next.
Number 5. Why do you think it was a ghost? Establish criteria.
So, the important thing about why did you think it was a ghost, the witness is going to tell you point blank why they thought it was paranormal. There's nothing that makes that noise. Well, if I can find something that makes that noise, you shoot down that part of the testimony. Okay? Or, I saw a person, I know there was nobody up here. If I can prove that somebody can get up there in that part of the building without being detected by a person on the other side, you kind of blown apart the credibility of the story. They're establishing, here's the criteria that I have to replicate to satisfy you that it was explainable. And so that they're outright telling you, this is why I think it was. Now, sometimes you're going to get people, well, I saw it, and ain't nothing you're going to say that's going to convince me otherwise that it was not a ghost. Well, there's nothing you can do in that point anyway.
Yeah,
There are some people like that, but...
Some?
Well, there's some. Most people, though, if you actually replicate it...
Sane, rational people, if you replicate it.
They're like, okay, that's what...
They're more believable, too, because exactly, they have that relief about it.
Yeah, like, okay, cool. I'm good.
I don't have to sell the crib, all right. Number 6. Do you believe in ghosts?
Again, of course, that's just we're establishing bias. Just because they do doesn't mean that it's bad. I'm going to point it out. Where it's bad is when they start kind of going into it. Yeah, I got 5 of them at my house. 2 of them come for tea. That number 3, that's male ghost. That motherfucker just wants to see me naked in the shower. That motherfucker. Okay, obviously we're talking.
Pervy.
They're very, very biased, and anything. The odds of it being explainable just went up, 90% at that point. But what's interesting is when you find people say, well, I thought it was kind of bullshit, and then this thing happened, and now I'm kind of like, I don't know. Those are really interesting, because there's quite a few that you find like that as well.
Right, and that leads us to number 7. Have you had any other paranormal experiences?
That's important because a lot of times, especially at like hotels or like the birdcage touristy places, we have one employee working, and they have multiple experiences over time.
Right.
The only way you can really kind of figure it out, you got to go back to the original story. What's the first thing that happened? Okay, this. And then what's the second thing? Because a lot of times you'll just be influenced. Anybody working at the birdcage is going to get caught up in. I mean, it's world famous. Can you imagine working there and then the person working the night before? You wouldn't believe what we had happen last night. There was this and this and this and this.
Yeah.
How could you not?
No, I would kill to work there.
So, well, it would be fun.
Yeah.
But you kind of have to do that.
And I could stay too, because a lot of people are like, well, how can you stay in a strip club for 10 years? You have to ask that question.
Well, Zero was doing heavy-duty orb research back in those days.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Lots of
He can tell the false orbs from the real orbs.
Right.
Yeah. Extensive.
Field research, as the good Dr. Jones would say. Were you aware of any other ghost stories or paranormal occurrences at this location before you had your experience?
Once again, we're trying to see if there's any baiting going on. Because that happens a lot. Same thing, birdcage is a great example. If you started working there, you knew nothing about it, you wouldn't be there a day before you start hearing ghost stories. Because it's so much a part of it now. Right. And at that point, you're baited. And you're like, okay, and then you hear noise. Oh, shit, must be the ghost. You're not going to stop. Well, maybe that was, the hot water turning on because I just came out of the bathroom and I was washing my hands, you know, and the pipe cooling off made a thunk.
Sure.
You know, so you got to look at it that way too. So if the stories are established, it's one thing. What's interesting though is you'll find some places that the owners, for whatever reason, try to suppress the stories, and they don't want it talked about. Sometimes that's an indication that something really interesting is going on there, because it's freaking the owners out where they don't want it. Don't talk about that. You talk about it, they're going to come. Fuck you.
Yeah.
But it can also be an indication, like when we went to Park Central, for example, where they actually told their employees, do not talk to 94 Rock or the Ghost Hunter people about any experience or we'll fire your ass.
Yep.
Why? You know, what's the motive? You're going back to motive again.
Right.
You know, oh, okay, well, they don't want it put out there. Whatever, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's only money you're losing. Whatever.
So, yeah. So that's a good one to ask.
Are you certain that this location is haunted? Are you sure that you saw a ghost?
You're very faint there. You're away from the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you certain that this location is haunted? Are you sure that you saw a ghost?
Make sure before you go. There's so many people, and here's what the thing is. How many places, well, you guys might have been to a place. We went there and, well, I don't know, that old building, pretty creepy. Y'all might find something in there. There's no witness saying, yes, I saw this in there and here's the event. You're going off, well, that might be haunted. Because it looks creepy.
Yeah.
What you're trying to find out, are you sure there's something there, or are you just, well, it might be because it looks scary. It's a good thing to know before you go. Without witnesses, you don't have a case. You have nothing to investigate. Because that's all we're doing, is we're investigating the claims that are made by the witnesses.
Early Bill got off.
Yeah. So, that's that.
Number 10. Are you aware of anyone else that had a paranormal experience here? Have you talked to them, and when?
And you'd be amazed how many more witnesses you can find by asking that question. Because, A, we're looking for that previous, have they talked to somebody, did they get information that was haunted, and they changed their mind? But as they're talking to other employees, I'm like, oh yeah, the Maria and Manuel and Felipe, they all saw this stuff too, and I talked to them and blah, blah, blah. Well, if we didn't know that, we just got 3 more people we can ask, and we might even be able to get more information. And that can go either way. It can help you solve the case, or it can actually build up a case to say something really weird is happening here. So it's kind of important to ask that. Do you know of anything else? So.
Yeah, a lot of these are textbook police questioning.
And that's kind of the mentality when you're getting into, and it's like we were talking about.
An investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Even now, and granted, this is way before the TV shows, but 9 out of 10 of the places we go to are explainable, and that's ghost hunter standards. 90 to 98%, depends on who you're talking to. 90 to 98% are explainable. There's very few that actually really have a mystery to them. Well, if you think about that, and we're going on a ghost hunt, we should be able to solve 9 out of 10 if we're really doing our job right. But to do that, you have to ask the right questions to the witness to get the clues to know which way to go with it. You know, one of the biggest things.
That to myself.
I'll tell you one of the biggest things. People ask me okay, well, what's the coolest stuff you ever did? You know, coolest evidence or whatever. And it's not any pictures, it's not any EVP, and it's not any video. The coolest thing was the stuff from the witnesses, like when the little girl that haunts La Posita restaurant, when they would say, oh, we saw it. Oh, here, can you draw a picture of what you saw? And they would say, okay, and they draw the picture, and they put the little sun wheels on the shoulders, and they put around the dress, and this is all beads up here, and there's buttons going down the front, and her hair is shoulder length, well, not shoulder length, about mid-back, long hair. And okay, that's cool. And we never put that information out. And then you get another sighting. Hey, can you draw this for us? This couple from Germany. Oh, yeah, we can draw. He draws the same fucking thing. How in the fuck would you know that those things are? Because he was one of I don't know about this Mexican Nazi girl here. You know, he was kind of like, what the fuck? Really? Swastikas? because you know how they are over there about that.
Oh yeah.
But in the sun, they're in the same spot, and you can see. Well, you could totally confuse them for swastikas.
Well, yeah, they just have little.
And we have like four. We have four of those. 4 people. We actually drew us pictures, and they're all drawing the same fucking thing. How in the hell could they all be seeing exactly the same details?
That's cool.
Another big one. How many you hear about ghosts? Well, she's in a Victorian dress. Draw it. There's more than one style of Victorian dress, folks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think is Victorian? How do we know that you know that's Victorian? I've seen wedding dresses that I would describe as Victorian. How do we know it's not a wedding dress? Have them draw it. And then if you get more than one witness and they start drawing the same crap, then... Because the myth building of these accounts, they don't contain the details that are there. That's what you got to find, these little itty-bitty details. What did it look like? Obviously, they're all just drawing shit and none of it matches. Okay, a little more questionable here. They're not seeing the same thing.
Yeah, but when they're putting the wheels in.
Oh, yeah, when they're adding in those details, that's the thing that freaks me out. How in the hell could that be possible? That all these people can see the same thing and draw the same crap. Now it's not a big deal because I wrote it in the book. And everybody knows now.
Yeah,
but,
you should have done.
Well, I decided to do that because
Screw it.
Screw it. I thought it made it good. I had to explain why I think that place is actually kind of funky, and that's why. And without that, it's like, oh, they have good margaritas there. Oh, you had to put in something. Okay, that's it.
Sure.
Next week, Halloween episode.
Yep.
Different. No, last year we went to Scooby-Doo, and that was quite fun.
That was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we did this year, whose idea was this?
Kind of all of ours, wasn't it?
We decided we're going to dress as each
I
other.
think.
So you'll see the end result of our experiment.
Our experiment.
The cross-dressing experiment, because that's what it's going to be.
Cross-dressing.
And so we'll have that, and we'll put that up. And that will probably be a little bit longer show. We'll do a little bit more of a Halloween kind of a theme.
Cool.
Also, we're going to put this up now, and we'll put it again on our Facebook. I'm going to actually open the Skype line, and if somebody wants to call in, talk to us, give us your favorite ghost story or whatever,
Ooh, yeah.
that will be open.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
So, there you go.
Yeah. Ghost stories are always good.
Ghost stories are always good, yes. So that's it. We'll see you guys next week.